Welcome back to Slow Tech. I'm your host, Adam Yasmin. Remember that Slow Tech is a podcast dedicated to help you restore your relationship to your devices. How to slow down, self-regulate, reclaim some of your lost time and attention, and start to incorporate aspects of digital minimalism amongst other perspectives that are available to us. If you're enjoying these conversations and the podcast, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Join the Substack. For as little as $5 per month, you can join the community and engaging group conversations amongst other benefits. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jose Briones, author of Low Tech Life, who also has a Substack called Moving Offline. Jose also produces and creates YouTube videos around digital minimalism, and I genuinely hope you enjoy our conversation. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Jose. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to Slow Tech. And I'm really thrilled to be speaking to you, Jose Briones, today. Jose, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the invite. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Awesome. I'd come across your work only very recently, and I saw that you published a book called Low Tech Life. I'd love to start this conversation with exploring what is Low Tech Life about, and how you came to publish that book.
Yeah, so I think that I started my journey into low tech or minimal tech devices, more simple devices, if you will, sometime in 2019. So around 2019, I moved from Michigan, where I was doing my university studies, to Georgia, where I started with my first job. And when that happened, I found myself with less structure in the university setting. You have a lot of structure. You have a lot of, you go to class, you go to work, you go home. And after my university studies, I ended up being in Georgia where I had more leisure time. And that leisure time got consumed with more online time or digital entertainment. So because of that, I started to experience higher than normal input and output into the digital world. And because of that, I decided to switch to a light phone 2. After that, I spent 4 years, essentially, 3 full years on the light phone. And I started thinking and documenting my experience and talking about dumb phones. And then eventually, during some time period of January last year in 2023, I decided to put all of that information that I have been amassing together and said, hey, let me put it into a book format, something that it's intelligible, something that I can teach people some of the things that I've been thinking about. And that's how the book came about. And the idea was Low Tech Life, which is building a lifestyle that is low tech and not necessarily only the devices that supplement that lifestyle.
Amazing. And how did you come to choosing the light phone?
At the time, it was just the option that was marketed to me, I guess. Funny enough, right? But at the time, I was having around 12 hours of screen time on my iPhone, and I wanted something completely different. I knew the benefits of e-ink just because it's a more boring screen and it's definitely slower. So I decided to try it out. In the beginning, it was 2019, at the end of 2019 when I decided to switch, and it lasted for about 5 months until the pandemic hit. And then during the pandemic, there was 1 month, the first month, where I switched back to my smartphone because I thought that I had to, right? This whole idea of, hey, we are in a pandemic. We need these devices with us. Sorry, I needed to adjust something. We need these devices with us, and we, need the internet again. So I decided to get a smartphone in order to kind of create that environment again for myself. But I quickly realized that I didn't need these smart devices with me all the time. Instead, it was just a convenience factor. So I started to go back to the light phone after that 1 month, and my screen time didn't get any better. It's not like, oh, I used the light phone and then all of a sudden my screen time got better when I went back to my smartphone. No, my screen time went back to worse. So I didn't want that in my life. And I said, I'm going to accept all of the trade offs, all of the difficulties that come with it. And I'm going to adopt this different lifestyle, even if it's going to be more difficult for me to do my job or to do different things. I'm going to try it out for the long term and seek solutions that are long term for myself.
And so how long have you been, you still use the light phone, I presume?
I still do. It's my 5th year with it, except
year.
for that 1 month that I didn't use it. I went back quickly and I started to continue to document my experience. And it's going to be 5 years this November / December, depending on how you count it. But it's been a good experience. It's not the best device out there, but it's the best device for me. And that's what truly matters, that you find a device that is the best for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, the thing I'm hearing you say, which I resonate with deeply, is, and I'm really interested if you'd like to share, expand more on it. It was just that experience of recognize this lifestyle is not for me, or this particular device is not for me. Instead, I want to explore this other lifestyle, this chance to use a different device, a device that I'm going to be relying on every day, for particular purposes, whether it's communication or writing down notes or, other, there are some thoughtful features, on the light phone. I have a light phone too myself. And I also believe that I got mine in 2019. I never went full time with it, but it's definitely been like I guess a phone away from phone, for lack of a better term. So, very privileged to just even be able to use it in that capacity. But I'd love to hear more about this experience of that, recognizing that something needed to change, that
I think
this lifestyle needed to change. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think over time my perspective has changed definitely. In the beginning I thought that the device was the problem, right? So I had a problem with the device. I need to replace this device in order to do better, right? That's what I thought. That's what it was in my brain, and that's what I understood it to be. But over time I realized that the device only amplifies your lifestyle, right? So if you have a very offline lifestyle, an iPhone is not going to help you amplify any aspects of that. But if you have a very online driven lifestyle and you enjoy the online world, then a smartphone will definitely amplify those things. And so that is something that I've evolved. I used to believe that it was the device, that the problem was that. But over time, I recognized that it's not the device only amplifies the lifestyle that is within you. Of course, there are some inherent things that the device can do, but it doesn't mean that your lifestyle needs to support that. So I stopped thinking in terms of I need my device to do X for me. Instead, I started to think I want my lifestyle to look like this. I want to go on walk with my dog. I want to read more books. I want to have a job that doesn't demand my time and presence all the time on the internet, but only on certain aspects. I want my days off to look like X, Y, and Z, going to the mountains or going to a coffee shop or talking with friends. I want to integrate, for example, maybe more offline experiences like going to a massage or going to the library or playing sports. Select the things that truly give meaning and value to your life, and then you find the devices that complement that. So for me, that's how I have approached it now. Instead of saying the device is the problem, I need to fix the device, I need to find ways to beat this device, but instead of the device adapting to me and to my lifestyle, and I want to adapt my lifestyle and integrate the devices that I actually think that are helpful for my physical health, mental health, social, emotional, et cetera, et cetera. And it has allowed me to reframe the conversation from device bad, device good, to lifestyle driven decisions that are actually going to make me happier in the long term.
Absolutely. I love that I'm here. I mean, I'm hearing as you're describing this, I'm hearing that you are interpreting the device you're using as a tool to make those that support those lifestyle choices, right? Those values-based choices. And if some more of us were able to possibly do that, we can see that there are possibilities. There are alternative devices. We don't only have to fall into an Apple Samsung or an Apple Android binary. Of course, I recognize the slight paradox in saying this out loud because I have been subscribing to Apple devices now for the last 16 years, and still hold on to that aspect of I don't know. Fear might be one way of saying it. Of like, well, I'm a parent. It seems implausible to only use a light phone 2 that is limited, is by design, is not able to do certain things. Like, for instance, just to share this, but to ask this back to you. How do people respond out in the world when they see you on a light phone, that you don't have a digital wallet or some kind of NFC capability or read QR codes? What is that experience like on a really mundane level?
I really think that all of these scenarios that we throw out in the digital landscape of you don't have a QR code reader, or you don't have a digital wallet, or, oh, you don't have a camera or this app, or et cetera, et cetera. I think in the beginning, people are shocked, but then they adapt really quickly. They're just like, that person just doesn't have that, and it's less than a huge, massive deal than we want to make it out to be. It's more of like okay, I need to adapt to that, right? I need to adapt to that reality if this person is actually valuable to my life. So I have a group of friends, they have smartphones, and they still contact me with SMS, right? The green bubble debacle, right? Oh my gosh, they don't have a blue bubble. How can I survive in the world without a blue bubble? But the reality is that if your friends and family members really value conversations with you, and they really value having that interaction, it doesn't matter what the color of the bubble is, or you'll find maybe an alternative like WhatsApp, or maybe a intermediary third party that only works on desktop, since you may work online for whatever reason, or just a good old fashioned phone call, right? Like, at the end of the day, they are still existing and they are quite helpful because they allow you to relay information real time, and it's just way faster. I've learned that people are going to react whatever way they're going to react, but the people that actually want to spend time with me, the people that actually want to develop a relationship with me, will find any way to communicate with me, no matter what phone I have. And that is something that I think we all need to internalize and to recognize, that is not just a inconvenience to others, but it's also a barrier. But that is not a bad thing. That is a good thing, because it allows you to weed out all of those non-really tangible, non-really deep relationships. And it may make a little things more difficult with new people, right? You don't have Venmo, I cannot send you a Cash App payment, whatever. Yeah, you can't, and that's okay. We will find a way. If our relationship is really that important, we will find a way to make it work. There is a quote from Viktor Frankl on Man's Search for Meaning that says something along the lines of, those who have a why can endure anyhow, like any process, right? So if you have a why, you do a specific thing, the process, the ideas, the things that you will have to do in order to withstand all of these difficulties will be easy, because you know where you're going.
Yes. I'm also curious to know about Beyond Low Tech Life, the other published book. You also have a Substack community called Moving Offline. I believe there's also a corresponding YouTube channel, or at least there are videos that you also host on YouTube. I'm curious how you could describe, please correct me if I've gotten any of that wrong, but how will you describe the work that you're doing in sort of building community and or content, through those channels?
Yeah, so I have the YouTube channel, my name, and I do dumb fun reviews there or talk about topics when it comes to low tech, life, moving offline, et cetera, et cetera. I decided to keep that. It's one of my creative outlets. It's my hobby. During the day, I work with nonprofits. During the week, my work is working with nonprofits, making them successful, helping them live their community values. And when I have pockets of freedom, I start creating content around the topic of low tech because that's what I'm really passionate about. And it's something that I'm actually trying to do. My goal with the Substack, the YouTube channel, and all of these things is to help people find alternatives so they can go live their lives. And it also helps me live my life and process some of these thoughts. I know eventually my channel, my Substack, my podcast, my everything that I have created will become slower and slower because my lifestyle will become more offline. And actually, I designed that by default. I have never attached to any of these projects to a sense that I feel like I need to continue with them indefinitely, but rather I have made them so that they're kind of an exploration and a part of my creative outlet in a way that is sustainable for me. And if it ever becomes unsustainable, I am not beholden to any of these things because it's not my professional endeavor, right? Like I'm not a full-time content creator that is trying to make millions and whatever dollars from people. I'm just somebody who's sharing my experiences, my thoughts, and if people find them valuable, I want to create community with them. And I feel that has allowed me to be prolific in my content creation and in my YouTube endeavors and videos and podcasts because I am not beholden to any strategy or any kind of like growth metric. If I want to post it and I think it's a good idea, I'm going to post it. It doesn't matter the timeline. It doesn't matter the optimization or whatever, right? But I'm really excited about my upcoming projects for the moving offline idea, which is I'm going to be spending 2 weeks offline each month, starting in the month of September. And that is a larger endeavor of a experiment slash idea that I'm trying to put forth, which is an upcoming book, if you will, if it ever materializes to be a book, we'll see. But it's just the idea of gathering all of the concepts of moving offline and how to lead a life that is more offline than online overall. And that is something that I'm working on. But that's kind of like where all of my endeavors go to. It's just like, how can I help people find alternatives and ideas so they can move offline as I myself am moving offline and eventually, hopefully, will spend more of my time offline than online.
That's beautiful. I love hearing this, living this concept of walking the walk as you talk the talk. There is this Japanese aesthetic philosophy called wabi-sabi, which embraces, amongst other things, the impermanence of life. And when I hear you describe that your efforts, your content creation, what you're wielding together will eventually kind of come to a, not a stop, but just a, maybe that intentional slowdown of these particular channels, these particular modes of expression. And I see that in a kind of wabi-sabi way. I just wanted to share that what you might think of that, just the concepts or the philosophies of impermanence and imperfection, really.
Yeah, so I think for me is just this reality that life comes in segments, right? And we have to embrace those segments. In my first part of life, I was very interested in learning everything and knowing it all and having all of the expertise when it comes to technology. I'm pretty adept at technology, like I've created different things and whatnot. And I used to get the latest iPhone pretty much every year and spend thousands of dollars on that. And I was very kind of like enthralled by the advancement of technology, and I wanted to do all these things and I wanted to get it and I wanted to be participating in the conversation and I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be, like a celebrity or whatever. I wanted to be noticed in my professional sphere, and I wanted to spread the message that I knew at the time. This is on my professional endeavors about nonprofits and making them healthy communities. And I work specifically with religious nonprofits, like religious themes and all of that. And I wanted to be popular, right? I wanted to be the best worker. I wanted to be featured and that kind of stuff, right? And then eventually I started to do this on kind of like as a reaction to that. I said, I don't want to be popular anymore. I don't want to be, you know, known for being the best or whatever, having the most access to technology, yada, yada, yada. And then I started to just doing this because the next segment of my life, the last 5 years, have been about re engaging with technology, slowing down my life, and creating a new lifestyle. Maybe that will come to an end as well. And eventually I will be like, I've done my part, I've helped, and it's time for me to transit to go to the next stage, which may be even more low key. Or maybe I'll get hired by Meta and it'll be pretty high key. I don't know, right? But like, I'm not trying to prepare for this mega success or prepare for this ultra low key lifestyle. I'm just trying to live life as it goes and as it comes. And instead of being focused on success metrics, or instead of being focused on what I do, I just want to do things that make me happy and that make me satisfied. That's what I'm doing right now. That's why we're having this conversation. And I hope that the next stage in my life will be determined by happiness and permanence. And at the same time, I recognize that for those things to come, I may need to let go of other things like the YouTube channel. Maybe I'll stop publishing videos as often as I do. Maybe it'll be even more slow. But I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that philosophical thinking that it's just like, hey, it's fine. It's going to be a work in progress, and it's going to be maybe ending at some point in time or morphing into something completely different. And I've definitely have seen that in my life. It has morphed from a high output, high success, metric to a slower, more methodical lifestyle. And hopefully it becomes to something maybe in between or even further into slower, more offline endeavors.
Well said. I I mean, it's like I'm on the one hand, I'm like very much in agreement with what you're saying, both subjectively, just in my experiences and my life choices and my personal philosophies as well, but also in this, there's something comforting about meeting an internet friend for the first time like this and engaging in a conversation like this and engaging in like just really active listening. And it's something that's so, for me, has been, sorely needed, over these respective years of doing work, of making things, of creating things, of doing work for others. And there's a lot to be said about choosing, on the one hand, you can say slower or just kind of more humane experiences, experiences that aren't driven purely for profit or purely for output. Because eventually, who's going to be there to receive that output at some point far into the future? So it's really humbling to be able to listen to the stories. I would love for you to maybe bookmark this conversation. I'd love to have you back on, in the near future. And I'd love to actually talk to you come November once you reach that 5-year mark with the Light Fund 2. I was also curious, actually, before we go into this closing, I'd like to know if you are considering the Light Fund 3, which will be coming out next January, given your experiences with Light Fund 2.
So yeah, I will definitely consider Life on 3. I have pre-ordered it, maybe for review more than for my personal use. And the reason why is because I personally like e-ink better. So I have had no issues with the Light Phone 2. I think there will have to be pretty significant upgrades to the Light Phone 3 for me to consider it as something that I want to use on the daily. I think the camera is something very nifty and really nice, but I personally don't take a lot of pictures, so I don't see the utility of it in my personal lifestyle. So maybe once the digital, if they ever release something like the digital wallet, or they release something along the lines of maybe like better performance, if it's super like just a better experience overall, I would think about switching. But I love the Light Phone 2 so much because it's exactly what I need in my life. No extra features added. So it has the podcasts, which is something that I really appreciate. And it has the phone calls, text messages that I need, and the calendar. Those are literally the 4 hard, very important tools that I need. Anything extra is just like super added bonus, like the directory tool and like the maps. They're like really nice to have, but I learned to live without them. So, I'm okay without all of those things. If those quality of life improvements came to the Light Phone 3, I'll probably see myself doing it like, a daily driving kind of situation. But I prefer e-ink, and because I prefer e-ink a lot, I am probably going to stick around with the Light Phone 2 until it's no longer serviceable.
Yeah, amazing. Until it succumbs to to impermanence. Amazing. Well, Jose, it's been a pleasure to have you on Slow Tech. You were the second ever interview that I've conducted here in the podcast. So it's a real honor to have you here. I'd love for you to close with where we can learn more about you and what you're doing, what you're working on right now.
Yeah. Thank you again for having me here. I really appreciate this conversation. And when I come to LA, or, whenever you're in Denver, I hope to meet you in person, and then we can, have some tea, have some good time. I think that's what these conversations are all about. It's not just like finding friends, but also making new friends and making new connections, not only for the digital space, but also for the offline space. You can find my work at josebriones.org. You can find the YouTube channel, the book, all of the different things. The Dumb Phone Finder, of course, dumbphones.org. And you can, kind of like go from there and find the different resources. My Substack, as also mentioned, is Moving Offline. And these are the projects that I'm currently having. And hopefully they'll be there for the next few years. And if they're not, that's okay too. So thank you for listening, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thanks, Jose.